Michelle McDowell is one of the very few women at the top of the engineering profession. She's a champion for diversity, equality and sustainability, issues which are at the core of the work of Civic Engineers. We met at 318 Oxford Street, where the old House of Fraser store is currently being retrofitted.
318 Oxford Street is an absolutely fantastic example of retaining what is actually a robust structure, albeit over 100 years old, and just a light touch to really adapt it for different use. So what was built as a retail building will now be adapted for retail, for gym, for office space, but reusing as much of the structure as possible. So the main grid and the floors are all retained, the facade is retained as well, and it's really just adapting it to allow those insertions that make it suitable for modern use now. This has got to be the way forward, and it is possible without demolishing and throwing away perfectly good buildings. I'm a structural engineer, so I studied civil engineering at Bristol, and then basically had a nearly 40-year career in civil structural engineering, starting off with Atkins, and then on to Whitby Bird. In the very early days, I worked very closely with Mark Whitby. There were about 15 people, and I worked there for 9 years, worked with very interesting architects, Nicholas Grimshaw, Michael Wilford, on fantastic projects. And those were the days when, that collaboration wasn't necessarily a natural thing between architect and engineer. So it was quite pioneering to be working so closely with those architects from a blank sheet of paper. So I worked on some wonderful projects there. And then in '97, I moved to BDP, multidisciplinary practice of architects and engineers, and I led their civil and structural group, and was on the board for nearly 25 years. So I did some. I really enjoyed the sort of collaborative nature of the work, and I also really developed my love of sort of retrofit and refurbishment through projects like the Royal Albert Hall, the redevelopment there, where we did 33 refurbishment projects inside the hall and built a very large basement outside the hall, connected the basement to the hall through a tunnel. And then my last project at BDP was running the design team for the restoration and renewal of the Palace of Westminster. So ultimately ending in a multidisciplinary team of about 250 architects, engineers and specialists developing the design for that multi-billion pound project. So very inspiring project, and I did that for 6 years. And then in April last year I left BDP to pursue a sort of broader career in engineering. Really wanted to give something back and to pursue specific interests. My passions really relate to sustainable design and also improving diversity, equality and inclusion in the industry. That's something I fought for many years, particularly being female, working my way through the industry. Civic Plus has set up the framework for growth, so it will be that board allows for strategic discussion. It creates space for that, so we can talk about what's next for Civic, and also it's a mechanism for allowing growth, sort of partnering, acquisition, so we can bring in other skills that are required for this holistic approach to engineering. And for me, now is the time of the engineer. We need to take the platform. The skills that we have as engineers, not just the technical skills, but the coordination skills, the communication skills, the ability to bring together strategic thinking will help basically address the challenges, not only in, for example, providing the flood defences for the problems that have been created, but also bringing that thinking as we design for the future. flood resilience, green buildings, designing for energy efficiency, using new materials, all those things. The engineer can really work very closely with the architect from the outset to do that. What really attracted me to Civic was their vision, which is about designing inspirational places which have a positive impact on the environment, and also their values, which are collaboration, passion, and many companies would talk like that, but what I could see, particularly in the founding partners, is actually they're living their values, and they have been doing it for the 10 years that they've been in existence. So that vision and those values meshed with what's very important to me, so I felt it was the right company for me to start my NED career with.